Dak is playing as sharp as he's really played.
Baker Mayfield is just coming back after comeback after comeback after comeback and winning games.
It is good value on Dak, but I don't know if they're going to make a playoff run.
If you take Dak Prescott away from that team, what are they?
And now, NFL IQ with Cynthia Frelund and Logan Ryan, presented by FanDuel Sportsbook.
Welcome to the Week 7 edition of NFL IQ. As you can see, our co-host, obviously Logan's here, and now we also get Zack back too, so even more reasons to subscribe. We have our new YouTube channel. We're coming out at a different time. We're just trying to innovate right on the fly here. We're making in-game adjustments, in-season adjustments. We're doing all of the things, but guys, so glad to see you. Logan, I can't not mention it right off the top here, but a very special award. I can't wait to hear all about it. You know, the ASPCA is something that I am all about. So you are, you guys have to wait to the end because it is the absolute best. Zack, thank you so much for coming back. I'm glad we didn't scare you off after the first time. We really appreciate you being here.
Excited to be back.
Awesome. Well, let's just jump right into it because we saw I just got back from London, so it was literally Monday morning when I was watching this game. I'm not really sure what time it is or where I am, to be honest, but the Chiefs and the Lions at Arrowhead, Sunday night in America, Monday early morning in London time, and it started off, and from start to finish, I feel like if we would have played this game 3-4 times, we would have gotten 50-50 results. I would have loved to see what happened if the Lions were, I'm a Lions fan, I'll admit it. If the Lions were fully healthy in their secondary, just because I want to see best on best. And we saw vintage Patrick Mahomes. It was what we're used to from 15. So guys, what were your initial impressions on this game? What did you notice from your eagle eyes from both of your perspectives? Logan, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it right there with the injuries in the secondary. And what Patrick Mahomes has developed, in my opinion, since the loss of Tyreek Hill is less downfield throws, but more of the checkdowns, more playing traditional quarterback in rhythm, get the ball out quickly, RPO game. If the run's not there, fire a screen out, get 7 yards a pop. And if you're the Lions and you're down your top 5 corners, you really can't play man-to-man against that speed. Obviously, the Chiefs got some of that speed back with Xavier Worthy. So they kind of got dinked and dunked to death. Travis Kelce was awake and making some things happen with Taylor in the building. So I felt as this is Mahomes' development as a passer, and you can't write the Chiefs off at all. Zack will tell you that's a tough place to play, regardless of their record. If Andy Reid's on that sideline, Mahomes is in the game. In Arrowhead, I don't care what their record is. That's a tough game to go win.
I thought Mahomes with his legs was awesome. I think a lot of their run game is him making plays with his legs, whether it be a 4-yard scramble or getting out of the pocket and finding someone over the middle of the field open. I love what Detroit did early. They ran the ball well early. It was kind of an old school game, hard, tough, earned runs. They mixed it up with Penei Sewell. They were moving around the line. I think they were trying to find some matchups, get him on Cruz Jones. And they did some great things early. And then, it really came down to that last drive there where they go up Kansas City goes up 10 points and Detroit's got to have a drive, and they let a linebacker run through a 4-yard loss. And that's kind of, they're coming out of the hole after that one. But kind of an awesome old school football game when you watch the tape, the trenches, hard earned runs by Montgomery and Gibbs and Pacheco and all those guys. So really fun game to go back and look at the tape.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I noticed in this game was just the ability for Kansas City's offensive line. Right before the game, you're like, oh gosh, the O-line is down, their rookie left tackle. What's going on here? What are they going to say? Aiden Hutchinson has been sacking people. He kind of back to we were worried if he's going to, after an injury, is he going to be back to form? Who else is going to rush the passer? Obviously, Detroit has some answers for that, but the O-line for Kansas City, I expected Detroit to look good, but I did not expect Kansas City's O-line to give Patrick Mahomes the type of protection. He even mentioned it after the game. I think he said something like, if they're going to block like that, then great. So is Patrick Mahomes then running the offense that he wants? Is this what he wants to do? Is this how it works?
I think so. I mean, you run the ball, you lay on those guys, and like you said, you kind of dink and dunk it, let him make plays, let Mahomes be him. And really they protected outstanding all day. They get their best pass rusher stuck on a tight end one play for a sack. But besides that, they really held up. And the thing I love about Kansas City, even if they don't have games where they run the ball great, when they need to run the ball at the end of the game to close out a game, they find a way to do it. And they did it against Detroit at the end of that game. Kind of dirty runs, 3-4 yard runs, but getting a couple first downs and really shutting that game out.
Logan, how do you stop Patrick? What did the Lions have a chance here? I mean, they're not playing their normal strategy for man. They play a lot of man, right? So you're not playing a lot of man in this situation. Sure, you have two of the best safeties in the league. The tandem might be the best tandem. I don't know, but what were they really like? What was wrong? Like, how do you even overcome this?
Well, we've seen when Patrick Mahomes loses games, they're not close normally, and it's because the D-line just overpowers the offensive line. Like, we see when Mahomes has lost in Super Bowls, it's because the D-line play was so much better. Then they just, like, go get new offensive linemen and run it back or whatever. So I think what Zach's alluding to, like, Kansas City was physical. They were physical, and Detroit's known for the physicality. And other than Brian Branch just absolutely knocking Juju's head off after the game, like, Kansas City was pretty physical throughout, and listen, that happens sometimes. Look, I get it. I don't condone hitting someone after the game, but there's some stuff that's said out there that sometimes gets handled. And obviously Brian Branch is going to be fined a pretty penny for that, but
And he's missing a game, so he's
you got to
missing
be
the next
careful.
game against the Bucks.
You can only talk as much as your hands can back it up, even if you're a football player. And obviously I would not want to try Brian Branch tomorrow or anything. He got some hands on him. But I think it was the physicality by Kansas City really matched Detroit's, if not beat them. And I think the 4 minute at the end of game when your running backs are running people over and Pacheco and Kareem Hunt are finishing like that, that's like, wow, we don't expect Kansas City to be that physical of a team, but they really are.
Okay, so let's talk about the trick play for a second, because both of these teams in the red area, they do some stuff that we're not used to. We're not, anticipating necessarily. But let's switch it over to the Lions side of things, because clearly there was some confusion. That's one way to put it, right? But there was some confusion about a play and what the rules are. I'm not a rules analyst. That's not my forte. I don't even know what a catch is. To be fair, like, I have to be told what a catch is. Maybe Zach could talk about Des with that sometimes. But whatever. Ultimately, who knows what a catch is? But I do know essentially that both of these offenses like to do things to try to throw the other defensive players off kilter. And I'm curious, from the Lions' point of view, what does it feel like, Zach, if you're an offensive lineman, let's pretend for the Lions, like what's going on here? And by the way, why haven't they run much jumbo this year? Why not? Now they're doing six. They hadn't run one snap with 6 O linemen all season long. Wild, which is it's crazy.
And that's what I love what they did in the first half. I wish they would have connected a little more in the second half. They were running that jumbo and they were shifting Panay over to the left side, I think, to get him on Chris Jones, but they really had some nice plays. And they kind of got away from it. I don't know if Kansas City adjusted and they didn't like the adjustment or whatever, but they didn't come back to it in the second half at all. And I think it was working for them. A couple nice stretch and cut runs early in the game. But really, when you get down to the red zone, I think it's a time on task thing. I mean, obviously, when you watch these two teams in their red zone film, you can tell they spend a lot of time on it, because if you don't, there's no way you're executing those plays, right? And then I can say, Detroit is known for running those trick plays. They obviously had that kind of famous one versus us a couple of years ago. They got dinged on, but I did listen to Coach Campbell after that game, and he said, "Hey, I discussed it with the referee before the game. What we do." So I'm curious if before this game, if he went to the refs and said, "Hey, we have a play. We're going to run the red zone with our quarterback," because that would make me mad. And that's where I kind of got that frustration from Coach Campbell. It's like, hey, we talked about what we're going to do, and now we're getting called a minute after the play. So, those plays are fun when they work. And if you have time to practice them, and they're great, because everyone knows how hard it is to score down in the red zone, and any kind of advantage you can get down there is huge.
How do you look to stop those trick plays in the red area, Logan? Like, what's the strategy? Like, be like, oh, look for jumbo in the red area, or some crazy offensive lineman, Dan Skipper, throwing out. Oh wait, no, he just does that anyways.
I would say from just a defensive perspective, even if you see a trick play, whether it works or doesn't work, you have to prepare for it. So much time goes into practice.
Yeah.
Just seeing all their trick plays that they've run for the last 3-4 years, they'll go back and say, oh, they ran this one against me when I coached here, or I remember he ran this one 6 years ago. So you're chasing a lot of ghosts with that. And I know Bill Belichick, knows that Andy Reid's a West Coast system coach, and a big thing in the red area with any Chiefs play is flat left, as we would call it. The offense is right. Roll Mahomes out to the right. And I
Yeah.
lost the Super Bowl on the 49ers to a flat left play where they scored. But a lot of that comes with the Kelsey shovel passes because he's another option to it. So you have to worry about the shovels.
Yeah.
You have to worry about Mahomes getting to his right hand where he extends a lot of his, heroics have come for him extending. So we used to have blitzes blindly off the left side, defensive left, offensive right, because we know Andy Reid has a tendency for a lot of these plays. We don't know who's going to get the ball. We just know they might go to the right, So that's how you're kind of playing tendencies. And then the Lions do so much stuff that it makes you cover ghosts because you don't know what they're going to run. Obviously, no one's really saw that Jared Goff play before. So now you're like, next week, do they come back to that? Do they not do that? I will say this, and I'm going to go on a record. I bet you they're going to put Penei Sewell in a jumbo wildcat or put him out to the left in a broken formation and throw it to him like they did at Alabama. Some of the stuff you're seeing in college, that's a perfect Penei Sewell package that I want to see in the NFL this year. Jumbo Penei Sewell package wildcat.
Zach, by the way, did you know that Logan
Love it.
called a touchdown on his game this week? I'm just saying, we got a full prognosticator here. I saw that play. You nailed it.
I do that every game. Every game. At least one time I predict the play in the red zone for sure.
I mean, well, we have this on film, so we can go back and check the tape later when it happens. So I want to talk to you about this after the game scuffle because, obviously there's like a lot of varying opinions. He got a 1-game suspension. That's where the league came down on everything. I mean, it's just like we'll do a 360 here. Juju's okay. He's not hurt. That was a little bit of like maybe he was looking at those international games being like, I want to be an international football player too. There's a little bit of a flop angle there with that fall out. Hey, theatrics work, man. Good for him. But like, I guess my question is like, how does that impact anything? Like, give me some insight about this because there's a lot of opinions like shouldn't people get all worked up and mad or whatever. But like, realistically, what does the locker room feel about that?
Well, I mean, I'm a play between the whistles kind of guy. I think Logan hit on it earlier. I mean, there are stuff like some guys take things personal out on the field, and it's not just like in game. I mean, some guys have a lot of pride, and if you challenge someone out in the field, then there's going to be words after, right? So, I'm more in the camp of take care of it on the field, obviously. But there are some times after the game where, hey, you cross the line and some guys they're not going to let it go. But I think, obviously tough game. There's some emotions flying after the game. They're obviously frustrated after a tough ending. But Branch has got to keep his cool and he's got to live to fight another day and be there for his team next week.
Yeah, I would say that, look, the fines in the NFL are ridiculous to me. So Branch's going to lose, I don't know, $70,000, $80,000 or whatever because of that. And look, it's unwarranted. You're going to get a fine. You're going to get suspended. You cost your team. That's enough punishment. Nobody in the locker room is going to be like, come on, bro. They're going to be like, hey, you did what you had to do. I'm sorry we're going to miss you, but we understand. And here's the thing. If you saw the block in the back that Juju did, that doesn't get called within the game.
Yeah.
So you blindside clip me in the back, right? The ref doesn't call it. Okay, that's football. And then you're going to talk trash to me when you took a cheap shot on me. So, and then you're going to come up and talk trash after the game or try to shake my hand after the game. And sometimes it's like, no, we're not cool. Like, you're not going to do that. So then Brian Branch obviously punched him in the helmet, which doesn't normally work. That one looked like
never works.
Not a flop.
It never works.
That worked on that one,
Your
Cynthia.
hand is messed up after that.
That one worked on that one. Go look at the replay.
Yeah.
I mean, he stumbled back a good 3 or 4 yards.
The
Then
bad
now
strategy.
you're like, hold me back, coming after me, hold me back, Pacheco. And now it's on. So at the end of the day, look, the locker room doesn't care. They're like, all right, bro, you did what you had to do. Like, we're going to miss you. But when dirty stuff happens in the game and it's not policed, then that's when things can go. And now Branch is the villain, but go look at the whole story of that block in the back. And he said, hey, man, I got cheap shot in the back. He could have hurt me. And nothing's policing that. Sometimes the refs don't get a good handle of that. Look, I play with Aqib Talib. All right, I've seen some stuff. I play with
I've
some
worked
guys.
with him. I love Aqib Talib. I
Right?
love him.
And Aqib is going to handle his business. when he says he's going to handle his business, and there's no stopping him from doing that. And that's his choice if he takes that fine.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not the definitive ruling on any of this, but I mean, one full game after is a huge, that's a huge consequence. So I don't
It's
think that
huge.
the Twitter police need to add more fuel to that fire. We get it. Like, it's not ideal, but on some level, like, it's still, you're asking people to, for 60 minutes, be engaged at 60 football minutes, run at each other full speed, and some things don't have, like, of course there's going to be emotions. How could you get yourself up to play the game if there are not emotions involved? Like, then you'd be like, I don't care. Like, what? Like, so I'm not suggesting that it's correct and you should never hit someone in whatever. There's no need for that. But I understand how it happens. I don't think he's a total villain. I don't know. I mean, and I would say that even if he wasn't a Lion, there's no love lost between the Lions. They're not enemies, the Lions and Chiefs. They barely play each other. So it's not like it's a Packers game and there's like some history and none of that, So I don't know. But that does bring us into, so Zach, we did last week. You missed the offensive line ranking, but we are going to rank, we just picked like 5 sort of groupings for defensive players. So that brings us to, this defensive player rankings. I mean, we're talking about a safety. He does appear on my list. So kind of how this is working is I have this thing called win share. So through now 6 weeks of the season, there's win share for how valuable a player is to their team based on kind of like WAR in baseball or player efficiency ratings in basketball. It tries to, even though it's a team sport, we try to just identify who's adding the most value to their team by position. And Brian Branch, so I specifically this week, I didn't tell you the order of my players because I thought that it would be more fun that way. So in my top 5, Brian Branch does appear at the safety position for sure. The top 4 overall: Kyle Hamilton, Nick Emanwari. That's a cool one because he's not. There's an asterisk on both Kyle and Nick because they've had some injuries. Brian Cook for the Chiefs, and of course our guy Brian Branch. So which order? Who do you like? And then I'll tell you who my favorite one is. Logan, this is your domain, so you have defensive backs.
Since this is my position group, I'm going to start here. Look, I love Brian Branch. I love the guys you mentioned. This is so hard to rank wins for defensive players because it's not a design play call for one guy. It is so team-oriented on you got to do your job, so that person. You got to have Derwin James on that list. I don't know where Derwin James is, but he is one of the best safeties, if not the best safety. He does a lot for them game plan-wise. He's schematically their guy. I mean, he picked off Tua's last pass there, whatever that flea flick, he just picked it off. There's no pitching around. So I'm just going to start and end with where's Derwin James on your list, and he definitely needs to be on there.
Oh, he's right. He's right up there too. I mean, the hard part for safeties is they're not all asked to do the same thing. So you're kind of measuring 2 different things with free safety. It's different. It's just a different vibe. So I just went with the highest overall numbers. And the only problem that Derwin James has in this particular season is that there's been he's just not been asked to do so much, kind of like Budda Baker. He's been asked to do so much that it makes the win share harder to assess for one position. Now, if you were to say defensive backs overall, it would probably be a little different.
Good to know. I mean, I would put Budda up there too. I don't know. I think those guys are doing a lot. And sometimes the more you do, the worse it hurts your win share. But the more you do on the football team, the more it helps you win the actual game. So that's why I think sometimes the data and what's being asked is different realities, and why some players get frustrated with their grades because they're doing a lot more.
You go grade him like that. I just had to fit him into one position because we wanted to do safety and corner. So anyway, but because you have to me, there's kind of 3 different categories. You got a corner. And then also that's not even fair anymore because what used to be called the slot corner, and now that was used in the pejorative, is now a very, very valuable part of your team. A slot corner it used to be like, oh, you're bad. Now you're old, you're in the slot. No. Now they're incredibly valuable because of how much slot play. So it changes a little bit. But Zach, what from the safety position, I have a feeling you're gonna like Kyle Hamilton just because of, I don't know, just a little bias.
I had one guy for each position, and I got Derwin James is my guy. And I think when I look at a position like that, it's like when I turn the film on, what do they look like when he's not in the field? Oh, they're a completely different defense. And like a guy like Derwin James or Budda Baker or Kyle Hamilton, like everything changes when those guys are on the field because they're all over the place. They don't just sit at the back of the field. They're up at the line of scrimmage. They're blitzing. They're covering. all different guys on the field. So, like I'm not in the weeds like Logan there, but for those positions, I look at like how much different is that defense when they're not on the field. And a guy like Derwin James, if he's not out there, they're a totally different looking defense.
Oh, for sure. All right, so we'll go to corners then next. What do you think, Logan?
Let me hear your list here.
All right, this is just through these 6 games. So, because there's some people who, to me, likely will be missing at that. But just from a pure win share number, Jamel Dean, Charvarius Ward, Devin Witherspoon, asterisk, he hasn't played every single game, and Pat Surtain.
Okay, so obviously I love Surtain. He's the former defense player of the year. He's just up there regardless. And I played with Jamel Dean and I played with Charvarius Ward, former teammates. Both great guys. Dean, 6'3", can run like the wind. I'm happy he's catching the ball this year. That was the biggest thing. Can he finish those plays, which he had, and he's been great. Obviously, I told you how good Charvarius Ward was going to be in Indy. But to me, I think the most underrated guy that needs to be on any list is Denzel Ward. If you got to watch how the Cleveland Browns play defense, it is very hard to be a good defense when you have a bad offense. Your field position's behind. You're behind on the scoreboard. So the running game's alive still. The passing game's alive. Like Zach will tell you, when the offense is playing with the lead, the defense is essentially guessing. But Denzel Ward's in year 7, year 8. He's been multiple All-Pro, multiple Pro Bowler, covering number 1 wide receivers. He's a true technician of playing off man, which is a dead concept nowadays. Most guys don't know how to backpedal. He's the purest. You can like literally Google Denzel Ward backpedal videos and watch it while you go to bed. Okay, he's the purest. It's therapy. Yeah, it's the purest technician out there, and he is so slept on. It's crazy to me, but Denzel Ward's a guy that if you know ball, he's a guy that's affecting Cleveland Browns for sure.
Why are people not able to backpedal anymore, do you think?
Because people want taller corners, 6'2", 6'3" corners in college that just play press man-to-man. They want to disrupt at the line of scrimmage, and that's just the way that you do it. And most of those tall guys can't pedal. Jamel Dean can't pedal like Denzel Ward can pedal, but Denzel Ward can press as well. So he's very, very complete as a technician, as a player, and he covers number 1 wide receivers. He does all the hard tasks. And just, you want bigger bodies at corners. It's a new model, but those guys can't pedal as much as the smaller guys can.
Zach, who do you have on your list?
Yeah, I have Surtain on my list there. Denzel Ward, I haven't watched a whole lot of him, but I've heard Jamar Chase sit there and talk about how good he is. And but really, I got so much respect for these guys that travel, the number 1 receiver, that both sides of the field. I know how hard it is to switch from one side of the line of scrimmage to the other, and I think that's harder than just switching from guard to tackle. So the guys that are constantly flipping sides of the field and their footwork's different on each side of it, I got a lot of respect for those guys. And those guys, tough job, right? They're not going to win every rep, but that's as big a job as anyone's got.
Logan, when there's a lefty versus a righty quarterback and you're traveling, is it hard? Like, what's the adjustment like for that? Because I know for wide receivers, the ball spins differently. It's, the whole thing, but the footwork and everything, is it? Because we have more lefties now than we've had in a while. So.
Yeah, I didn't play against a bunch of lefties. I played against Mike Vick, maybe a little bit. I'm trying to think who else was a lefty when I was really playing. But yeah, I think the ball spins differently, and I think people got to be mindful. They're like, well, why'd the DB drop that? We're picking the ball up midair, right? The receiver is looking back. He sees it from the quarterback's hand most of the time. He sees it from the bat, right? He sees it from ball off the bat. We're running with a guy flipping our head, running 17 miles, 18 miles per hour. Then we got to track a ball in the sky mid pop-up. Right. And that's why a lot of times DBs just aren't able to catch it. And then with a lefty, the spin of the ball is different, which takes receivers time to adjust. So imagine backpedaling, flipping, turning your head, tracking the ball, and then it's a different spin. I mean, it's all completely different, playing against a lefty, especially for wide receivers, but make that 10 times harder for the DB because we got to pick up that ball midair.
Yeah, I've been looking at that a lot this season because we have more lefties than we've had in quite some time. So I'm always curious, like if you're going from a lefty to a righty or someone you haven't seen in to as much different like construct. Anyways, very, very interesting stuff. I'm curious about that. Let's move on to a position that unfortunately my top 2 guys are literally, one is on IR as of this week, and the other one is at least injured. I don't know what's going to become of him, but the third one plays for the Lions. So Here we go. Number 1 is Fred Warner, and that one is the one that unfortunately now he's on the IR, which is I think somebody's going to need to make a list of who is playing for the Niners as opposed to who's not, because that list is getting longer this season. Devin Lloyd, he had an injury as well. I'm not sure what his status will be. And then Jack Campbell. Those are the 3 that this, at least by win share for inside linebacking positions, have popped on the win share list so far.
Yeah, so I played with Fred Warner. It's not even close. He's the best linebacker in football. Tom Brady, Darrelle Revis, Gronk, Fred Warner. 4 best players I ever played with, probably in that order. All Hall of Famers. Fred's going to be a Hall of Famer. He is everything you want your linebacker to be. He's as athletic as any linebacker probably there ever was in terms of the pass game. And then he's obviously a vicious tackler. He's a great leader, great captain. The whole scheme is built around Fred. I've explained how easy my job was because Fred handles so much of the middle of the field at linebacker.
Yeah.
So he's
But he's
the
not.
best in the business.
That's why he's my It's an asterisk because now he's not. So it stinks. But
Fred Warner will be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
oh, for sure.
I'll
Yeah,
just put
no
it
doubt. No doubt.
quite simply that dominant of a player.
The coverage numbers alone for him are ridiculous. Like the since he's entered the league, the ability to stop passes by a linebacker is not even close. It's like 15 percentage points different from any other guy. And when you extrapolate that and figure out the fact that he's faced more coverage snaps than all the other, it's just a ridiculous output. But I'm very unfortunate for the Niners in that regard. Zach, who are your choices?
It is, and a lot of these top linebackers, I always compare people to Kuechly and like Fred Warner. These guys, you can just tell are like extreme students of the game. Like they're playing a step ahead of everyone out there. Not only are they athletically gifted and all that, but they're a step ahead of everyone on the field. That's what Fred was able to bring. Sam Rand, but another guy, I don't know where he falls in line in the rankings or whatever. Another fellow Notre Dame guy, but when I turn on Kansas City, I mean the guy is all over the place. When I watch him, he kind of has. He's not as athletically gifted as those guys that I mentioned, but the guy, you can tell the student, he's all over the place. He's getting guys lined up. He's hitting gaps. He's making big plays in the backfield. So Drew Tranquill is a guy that's jumped up the tape for me this year.
Literally a good chess player as well. He's a wonderful, like a very competitive chess player. It's like him and Justin Reed are like 2 of the best chess players in all of the NFL. Randomly, this is what I know. But I'm looking at Drew Tranquill's been one of my favorite. Like, I can't believe the Chargers allowed him to go in the division to the Chiefs. That makes no sense to me. Seems like a weird choice, but he's had a great season too. A lot of the difference the problem with win share for linebackers through only 6 games is it's how often you've seen a run versus a pass and what you're asked to do. Like Leo Chenal took over a lot of those duties in this last game, so it's just fewer reps. But by the end of the season, it'll probably even out to a space where I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't at least top 5 by the end of the season. Should we move on to edge? Well, let's leave edge rushers for last. Let's do defensive linemen and the interior. So non-edge rushers. Let's do that. I love this list because Dexter Lawrence is one of my favorite players to just think he's funny. I don't know why. There's something about him. I think his pants are too small. I always am curious if are his pants going to fall. Then no one has been double teamed more over the past 3 seasons than Dexter Lawrence, which is just a pride number in general, the run stopping ability. Then of course, another New Yorker, Quinnen Williams, appears on this list, which is wild because the Jets have not had much success this season. They're the only team that's had yet to get a win. And then another guy, Jeffrey Simmons, on a team with only 1 win. That one is an interesting one as well. So those 3 really pop up for me. And it's funny because they're all on kind of not so winning teams. This is really good English. Not so winning teams. Not so win heavy teams.
Yeah, I agree with all those guys. I mean, obviously we talked about Dexter a couple weeks ago. He's getting double teamed. If you don't double him, you're going to be in trouble. I think Jalen Carter can be that. He just got to be more consistent, and he's just got to play harder consistently. But if he's got the motor, that guy's as good as anybody in.
Weird that he didn't play out Thursday, right?
It was. Yeah, that was very weird. But the young Graham kid in Cleveland and then Tomlinson in Cleveland, like that's his stout as a defensive tackle duo in the league. It's just unfortunate in Cleveland they kind of get buried. You don't get to talk about him all that much. But I really like those 2.
Yeah, Mason Graham. Are you allowed to talk about Michigan people? I mean, I thought Notre Dame guys can't talk about Michigan people. Anyways, Mason Graham there.
I can tell my Michigan
No,
people.
he's
Yeah. I really like what Graham brings to Cleveland. He's got that twitch to him. He can push the pocket, but he really puts those interior offensive linemen. They're already athletically we're behind a little bit when you get those interior D linemen, and it's definitely a mismatch. On if they can get to third down and pass rushing situations, he can be a impact player side.
My prediction for him, my prediction that we should go on record with is that next season he's going to have a crazy breakout season. I think some of his,
Yeah.
like when I saw him at
Yeah.
the combine and all of the things that like Jim Schwartz is a perfect guy for him. But I think that it'll take just a hot minute for him to look as good as he's really going to look, especially because I think like when you look at him, you're like, how does this guy move so fast? He didn't look like he was like he's that once he gets in his NFL body, if he's a puppy, and when he goes into a dog, then you're gonna really see like some crazy stuff out of him because he was a puppy for sure coming out of the combine.
Having, Zach here he's actually had his hands put on him by these people, holds the most weight to actually hear his point of view in this stuff. I really love the list that you have, all those guys. I played with Dex. I played with Jeffrey Simmons. Jeffrey Simmons is as angry as Dex is happy all the time. So there's personalities. Couldn't be any different. Jeff plays with a lot of anger out there, but he's dominant out there. He knows he's the captain of that team, and not a lot of D linemen are captains. So I got to make that, like, they're not always the captains. Jeff is the captain of that defense, and he earns it. I like everybody. It's hard to rank them for me. I've never had to play against them, but I will say Vita Vea, it needs to be up there as well. And I played in that Todd Bowles defense. It's heralded. You see how much chaos it provides. A lot of rushers have a lot of great years. Levante David has had a Hall of Fame career, in my opinion. Another linebacker needs to be mentioned. But a lot of that has to do with Vita Vea. He takes a lot of doubles. I don't know the percentage, but it's almost every play he takes a double. When I played with him, he still is a good pass rusher. And Zach might be able to say it better than me. He's hard to double team. He keeps the linebackers clean. So a lot of what they do in Tampa has to do with when Vita's on the field. And when Vita's not on the field, it doesn't always work the same.
I forgot to hit on Jeffrey Simmons because I agree with you. He's in that mix every single year. Simmons is the kind of guy, like when you play the Titans a couple years ago, like when they weren't very good, and you're like, oh, we played the Titans, and everyone's like, oh, we played the Titans, and you're sitting here like, but I've got to block Jeffrey Simmons for 65 snaps. Like we got a good chance to win the game, but I'm in for an absolute war today. I'm glad everyone else is happy.
You're like, thanks, guys. Glad everyone's happy. Yeah, no, I thought you might ask about Vita Vea, Logan, so I looked it up for you before, and he's 7. So it's not like he's far off the pace here. So yeah,
Hey, they're winning a lot of games. They're winning a lot
they're
of
winning
games.
a lot of games. That's right. But all right, so let's finish this off with edge rushers. So on this list is, and the funny part is, we'll get into Micah Parsons in a second. Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, Jared Verse, Aiden Hutchinson. Surprise omission of TJ Watt, which was to me was interesting. Just from when I watch it. And of course, Nick Bosa was doing great, and he's now also injured. So that's why he's not there, but just not enough snaps. So, I mean, I don't know, any arguments on that one, or what are we seeing?
No arguments. Garrett's obviously as good as they get. I love Verse. I think Verse is kind of the young pass rusher that people got to start taking notice of. He's got that rare combination of speed. He can turn into power really quick and make you look dumb. I think Burns, we talked about him a couple weeks ago. Burns has been a guy who's stepped up and been able to win those one-on-one matchups. I think he's got 6 or 7 sacks already through this season. So I agree with the list. Maybe add Burns in there when they're able to get in those games where they're able to pass rush late.
I'll make my feelings clear on this one. I feel as if Myles Garrett is the best edge rusher in the NFL. I'm not going to say by far, but I think he's in a tier in his own. If Cleveland was able to play with the lead and you can actually pad stats at the end of the game, I couldn't imagine what his numbers would be. Again, he is playing dominant defense with bad offense. It's almost opposite. You're not able to rush the passer when you're losing because people just run the ball on you. And it all starts when you play against the Browns with Myles Garrett. There's a whole presentation about him. So he has separated himself to the elite rushers, but there's a massive name missing from that list there. And I don't know if you have him as an edge rusher, outside linebacker, but it's Nick Bonito. Nick Bonito leading the league in sacks. Had a breakout year last year. He also drops in coverage and get pick sixes. So to me, defensive football is about scoring. You got to get the ball back. Okay, it's about takeaways. And I love players that get tackles. I love players that get sacks. I love players that take the ball away when they do that. Nick Bonito has been able to affect the game multiple ways in coverage by dropping, and he's an effective rusher. So he needs to be in that category. But Myles Garrett's the best rusher in the world, but Nick Bonito needs to be in that top 5. Absolutely.
We can never talk about that London game again from the standpoint of football because it was I really appreciated my time there and it was wonderful and I loved the stadium. I love it. But that game from like a football perspective was like kind of hard. It was a tough watch. Let's just put it that way. But Nick Bonito basically saved the day, right? Like with Justin for the Broncos, right? With getting those crucial. Who are you asking to do something in a pivotal moment? The answer is Nick Bonito. So obviously leading the league in sacks, like we get it. And Justin Fields holding onto the ball for, 6 seconds almost, which is a very long time. 9 sacks. He has many completions in that game as they did sacks. That's never a good stat. But, I'm with you on Nick Bonito. The problem that Nick Bonito faces in being on the second highest pressure defense from a just pressure percentage standpoint is that he has to split some of the win share glory with like Zach Allen. Like there's just a little bit of glory that gets split, but that's because they're very good. And that's kind of with Jared Verse has some of that problem too, although their secondary isn't as good as their front for the Rams. So he's up there too. Don't worry, I haven't forgotten him. My preseason home with the Broncos, I wouldn't forget them. Okay, so I think that brings us into a really good time to talk about a little bit of story time because the Patriots are crushing it. Mike Vrabel is hilarious. One of my favorite coaches. When he was Tennessee's coach, I remember winning Coach of the Year, and I believe I can tell the story, but they loves, I think him and some of his friends may have purchased a racehorse, and that's pretty cool. It just kind of shows you like he's a dude, he's a dude. You want to play hard for Vrabel, clearly comes from that linebacker mentality with Bill. So you tell us your story, Logan, about him.
Yeah, so Mike Vrabel's a dude. I think my story is my Mike Vrabel dude story. I obviously played for him in his first head coaching gig in Tennessee, and boy, I think they wish he was still there. And, I always say I used to get to the building early. So typically like on, I don't know, Zach, on a normal day, a Wednesday or whatever, we would have our first meeting at 7:30, maybe 8, but like 7:30. So I would get to the building. I set my alarm at 5 a.m., something like that. I would get to the building by 5:30. I would like do treatment, and then I would lift at 6. And we had the breakfast club. And the breakfast club was certain players that would like to get their lift in before the day started. If not, you have to lift after practice. So we would lift from 6 to 7, and then I would shower and then go to breakfast at 7:30. So middle of the year when I needed more treatment, a little more banged up, I started getting to the building at like 5:30, right? So I can get a little more, or like 5:15, 5 o'clock. So I can get a little more treatment before the breakfast club. And who do I see out there in the pitch black? Mike Vrabel. Okay, running gassers for about a good hour while I got treatment overlooking the field at 5 a.m., right? Not only was he out there, our special teams coach was out there. Stretch, his go-to guy, ask people who Stretch is, but Stretch is the key to it all. His assistant Stretch was out there. He had like 6 coaches who did not want to be up running like that, running half gassers for a good hour. His shirt's off. It wasn't flattering. I'm not going to air him out with the picture. I took a picture of it. But Mike Vrabel was shirtless, having the coaching staff run at 5 a.m., right, before our work starts at 7:30. And I've seen head coaches in the building. I've seen head coaches watching tape early. I've never seen head coaches run about 40 half gassers essentially every day at 5 a.m. And we would have never known that as players. I just happened to be there early enough one time to see him doing that. And that was like the standard he set. Obviously at practice, you see him like putting his pads on and like mixing it up. Pre-game fights or training camp fights, he's in the middle of it. But he literally had the whole coaching staff running half gassers at 5 a.m. And I'm like, that's different. But like when the boys hear about this, like we're going to play for this guy. And obviously he ended up being a heck of a coach. And I'm happy that effect is kind of wearing off those guys in New England. They want to play for him.
Zach, did Mike McCarthy or Jason Garrett like any happy episodes?
No, not like that. But I do think like playing against Vrabel, like I think sometimes team takes on the personality of their head coach, right? And I think that no one does that better than Vrabel. I think, like I just talked about when we played the Titans, maybe they weren't so good. A couple years ago, we put them on a Thursday night. They probably had 10 or 11 guys on IR, and it was still it was a knockout, drag out fight. We won by like a last second field goal, and it's like on paper we should have ran through these guys, and you just know what kind of team's coming in when Vrabel's coaching them. They're gonna be tough, they're gonna be smart, they're gonna be physical, and you're gonna be in for a long game when you're playing his teams.
Now we're getting into like the meat of the season, right? Like, so this is the stretch where it starts to get more difficult. Everyone talks about how after Thanksgiving, that's when you get whatever. But I think that like from like mid-October until December, like things are crazy. There's so much attrition with injuries and what's going on and this, that, the other thing. Like, are the Patriots, despite they don't have the best receiving core, Drake May's crushing it. They don't have the, there's some things that are missing. They're finishing a rebuild. They're not, this is the first time Vrabel's their head coach. So what can we expect from them going forward, Logan? Like, are we seeing the standard like starting? Is it an ascension to the playoffs, or what am I looking at?
Yeah, I think they're going to be competitive in every game, and they're going to have a coaching advantage in critical situations because he is so good in situational footballs. I think Bill Belichick is the best, but Mike Vrabel was up there with him, almost out coaching Bill Belichick head to head at times. So look, the Patriots are 4-2, and that Steelers game, they fumbled twice in the red zone, right? Turned it over, fumbled on the 1 yard line. Now you can easily see some things where they should be 5-1 or they could be 3-3. Like that's how it is. But I think they feel like they can play anybody on their schedule and win the game. And that's how we were in Tennessee. Like we felt like we could play anybody, like Zack said, and we didn't see why we couldn't win because we are going to be so good. We are going to be tough. We are going to be physical, but we were going to be so smart in the fourth quarter, so smart with timeout usage, so smart in 2 minutes, so smart in the middle sandwich of the game, the last 4 minutes of the second quarter, the first 4 minutes of the third quarter. Like we were so good in those areas that you can win any game if you're good in those critical areas. And like that's something he harps on. Third down offense, red zone defense. Like that's where games are won and lost. It's not always about who has who on what roster and how good your receiving core looks. Like get open on third down, dude, and catch the ball. It's not that deep.
I think their schedule sets up pretty well. Like we talked about it, like they stack a few wins together. They start getting confidence. Who knows where they go down the road here, because I think it does set up for them to get some more wins here.
Especially if you think about, I mean, unfortunately for the AFC North, there's a bunch of injuries that we weren't anticipating ahead of the season. So perhaps now, instead of 2 AFC North teams, maybe it shifts to an ability for, it opens the door for some other teams like the Patriots to not just, I mean, they're right there with the Bills right now, but I think in general, we think, probably the Bills, but then also I'd be very shocked if the Patriots didn't end up making it, which makes me happy because I predicted them to go to the playoffs before the season started. So I just like being right. And obviously we like that. Okay. So we need to bring Ben in because I think that there's a specific quarterback he's been questioning that perhaps, Zack knows a little bit more about.
Yeah, thanks, Cynthia. The MVP discussion's already started in the league, which is kind of crazy considering we haven't even gotten to week 7 yet. But obviously, it's a very, very heavy position of quarterbacks when it comes to MVP. And if you look through the list of guys, it's a lot of the usual suspects there at the top. But, you get some guys like Baker Mayfield kind of working in, which is awesome. But when you look at like the stat leaders and like what Cynthia went through last week, talking about the top 5 quarterbacks, Dak Prescott's right there. Second in passing touchdowns, all that kind of stuff. Like there's some really strong numbers there to support that he should be in that conversation. Losing record, though, that tends to work against guys. We saw Joe Burrow last year. So my kind of overarching question I've been thinking about is, should we be letting more guys that maybe are leading statistically, they're leading their team to these big moments, but not necessarily finishing off with the wins? Should those guys be into this conversation of MVP more frequently? And specifically with Dak, Zack, if we can talk a little bit about him, just the impact he brings to that team, even if it's not necessarily with the wins.
Yeah, I mean, we've all watched the film this year. I mean, I think Dak is playing as sharp as he's really played. I mean, he's, you got a guy like CeeDee Lamb who goes out and he's still able to put those numbers. Now, obviously, they went out and got Pickens, and that helps. But for him to just, I mean, it is as smooth as an offensive operation around the league, I think. Now, yes, do do they have to get wins? And Dak's the first guy that'll step up and say, "Hey, we're not winning the game. I'm not doing my job." But at the end of the day, I look at that MVP. It's like, if you take Dak Prescott away from that team, what are they? And I think every year with the MVP. So yeah, I think they got to start winning games, but I think he's definitely in that conversation. And they start rattling off some more here. He'll be right in the heart of it. But I always look at it as, what does the team look like when you take that guy away? I kind of talked about it earlier with the DBs, but the Dallas Cowboys, along with a lot of teams with these quarterbacks, they look completely different if those guys are on the field.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow up, Ben, on that one. I think both can be right. I think Dak Prescott definitely is playing quarterback as good as anyone in the league. And I think that, he should be in the MVP conversation, but he will not win MVP if they don't win more games. And that's just how I've seen MVP voted on. Although personally, we feel like it should be, as a player, I think Zach and I feel like it should be for the most valuable player. Therefore, Joe Burrow should have got more votes last year. Because you take him away from that team, they probably don't win a game last year. But he's not going to win it because Baker Mayfield is just coming back after comeback after comeback after comeback and winning games, and the Bucs are winning games with injuries all around them. So I think if the award were stopped today, Baker Mayfield gets it without a doubt, and maybe Dak finishes in second or third, but it's because his team is not winning these games. And we have these moments where Baker's leading to wins. So I think wins, it's almost like the best player on the best team gets MVP more than maybe the most valuable player to his team.
So here's the thing though, Logan, because you're right, with this idea that like these guys should be finishing in the top. Right now with FanDuel, Dak is tied for 11th in MVP odds. So he's not even close to where these guys are at the top. Cynthia, the numbers though, that's not lining up with what you were even talking about last week, right? Like if you were just to take the wins, all that other stuff away, he's certainly top 3.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I mean, it's definitely a valuable. There's a lot of long-term value there, if you will. But my sense is that part of what matters is when the award is voted on as well. So you have to remember, the formula for winning, the reason we've had so many quarterbacks, the reason we've had so many quarterbacks, if you look at it specifically, quarterbacks on deep playoff teams. The part of the reason for that is the timing of when the award gets voted on. It's the end of the season, turn of Christmas time, basically. So that's the other problem. It's predicting going forward. Like if Lamar, let's say, for example, I don't know what Lamar Jackson's situation is, but he was playing at such a high level. If he comes back from injury and takes the Ravens on this epic run into the playoffs, then it will be Lamar Jackson. It's an interesting thing from a timing standpoint, because it really ends up being who's in the playoffs, who's making a deep playoff run, and so it's less about, I don't know, like you could be great start to finish, but your team not make it to the playoffs, and you really don't have a chance. Like we have not seen that happen. That's just not how it's been working. So I mean, part of it is the way that our brains are wired, but part of it is good value on Dak, but I don't know if they're going to make a playoff run to kind of get him to where the formula for that award ends up being.
Zach, you've obviously had to block for Dak, and you're familiar with a lot of these guys that are out there right now. Do you see there being a good chance that they do get this going here soon, and those numbers that we're seeing specifically on offense start translating into wins?
Let's be real. Everyone's watched the film. I don't think the defense can get, can get worse, right? I think they're going to make steps and get better. They're going to, I don't think they're going to be the best run deeps of all time, but I think they can get better, and you get CD back, and do I think they're going to win 12, 13 games? No, but do I think they can make a playoff run and win 9, 10 games? Absolutely.
There you go. Well, when you talk about MVPs, it's hard to not bring up the last 2 decades without talking about Aaron Rodgers winning MVPs. And he's going to be in a very fun matchup on Thursday Night Football when the Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Cincinnati Bengals, which is, of course, the matchup we thought we were going to see with Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco in the year 2025. Kind of a little mind-blowing to think about there. Our friends over at FanDuel, if you haven't already, jump in, FanDuel.com/Cynthia. If your first $5 bet hits, you get $300 in bonus bets. This is going to be a fun one to look at because it's a weird matchup. You look at every level of it. You look at it and you're like, I don't know fully what to expect. Aaron Rodgers has gone out there and played well. The numbers aren't necessarily astronomical, but the way that he is playing is translating into wins, which is something we didn't see with the Jets last year. So I'm curious, and I think, Cynthia, you're probably the right person to start this off here. Are the numbers that we're seeing from Rodgers and the play that we're seeing indicative of him actually being better than what we saw last year? Or how much of this plays into the fact that the Steelers roster is probably just better than the Jets?
Both. I mean, I think part of the thing about Aaron Rodgers that we have to get over as like a aesthetically like motivated people are you're not going to see him throwing deep balls like there's no Rodgers to Rodgers Hail Mary situation. Like we talk about this, I call him mid Aaron Rodgers because even mid Aaron Rodgers is better than so many quarterbacks in the league. It's just not prime Aaron Rodgers. And I don't, I'm not being controversial in saying that. I think you're seeing he's got a fast time to throw. He's throwing shorter passes. He's using his mind to outsmart and outthink defenses. He's looking for coverages that he likes, and he's spotting things that, oh, you're giving me this. Okay, I'll just take this. He's not trying to do something crazy. He's not MVP form Aaron Rodgers, but he's still great Aaron Rodgers, and it is translating to wins. So, it's just hard when you've been this former iteration of yourself, and then there's guys like Tom Brady who come down to the Bucs and end up throwing deep passes again. But that's not what Aaron Rodgers has been last year with the Jets. It's not what he is now. The scheme works better for him. The run game is more reliable for him. The blocking works well enough. I'm not going to pretend they have the best O-line, but it works well enough for him. And he's just smart enough, but ahead of the snap to diagnose what the defenses are giving him. And I don't think this Bengals defense is going to be too tricky for him in any way, especially as I see Trey Hendrickson appear on an injury report. That's their best pass rusher. And, Broderick Jones has allowed a bunch of sacks. So there are some areas that they can get got, but I feel as though the Bengals defense has some, I feel like this is one where Aaron Rodgers is just licking his chops to be like, okay, so I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm targeting this. I'm targeting that. And I just think he outmatches them from a mental capacity.
Yeah, I'm a lead with this right here. Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers is what Peyton Manning was when he went to the Broncos. Okay? The Steelers are not that Broncos defense. So I don't know if those aspirations are going to be as high, and I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl. But regardless what you feel about Aaron Rodgers personally, the man, he is a savant at the line of scrimmage. Okay? He calls the game at the line of scrimmage, and it's not always a touchdown. It's get us into the right run play. Slide the protection to pick up that blitz. And that's not what Pittsburgh's had since Ben Roethlisberger's left. And I played against the Peyton Manning Broncos team. Aaron Rodgers can throw it better than Peyton Manning at this age. Peyton Manning couldn't really throw it downfield, and they still won a Super Bowl because he was getting them in the right plays. He was catering to his defense. He was setting up the run game. He was hitting some timely third downs. He was picking up the blitz, and he was just playing really smart at the line of scrimmage. And Aaron Rodgers is as smart as Brady, Breeze, Manning, all those savants at the line of scrimmage. He is that level of IQ, and he is just conducting the game and not messing it up to find ways for a Mike Tomlin coach defense to win the game ugly. And that's all that matters in the end. And that can win you a playoff game or two. It might not be enough, but it can get you enough in the dance, and then things can happen. So that's exactly what he's doing. It's a perfect fit for where he's at in his career, and he's really conducting the ship the right way.
I think they're going to get better as the season goes on. I mean, let's not forget, Rodgers wasn't there in the offseason or in the summer. Like those receivers, he's going to get them coached up as the season progresses, what he likes, the looks. And like Logan said, let's be real, late December, January, you're not going to want to be on defense against Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I don't care how old he is. I've been at the other end of that thing in deep runs against him. And when he needs to make a play, he can still make any throw he needs to make on the field.
Fun times on Thursday Night Football. I think we're going to be in for a fun one. If you haven't already, go over to FanDuel.com/Cynthia, sign up, get in on the action. Whole lot of fun football still left to be played here. And I think there's going to be some new looks out in Tennessee.
I'm very curious from both of your perspectives. Like, look, you never like when someone loses their job. I hate it. Like, it's sad. Like, but it's part of football. It's part of the business. It's part of the reason why coaches get paid so much, because there is a risk associated with it. So my question is as far as Cam Ward's development or even the whole locker room as a whole, what can we expect from Tennessee going forward? How do they kind of, what are we looking at here? Logan, you go first because you really.
Yeah, I feel as if, look, the rookie quarterback can only be as good as the structure around him, right? And we see some of these great quarterback organizations and offenses, a la Minnesota or San Francisco or McVay and the Rams, like develop the quarterback. And clearly, the leadership in Tennessee has not been clear on what their direction is. Made no sense to move on from Vrabel. Okay, they moved on from Vrabel. John Robinson then moved on from Vrabel. I don't know. I was not there for that. I guarantee you no player really agreed with that. Then you bring in Rand Carthon, hires this coach. You fire the GM, bring in a new GM, hires Callahan's there, and now this GM fires Callahan. So in the middle of having the number one pick. So he can only be as good as the organization around him, and that has not been good. That does not make sense. That's a lot of mistakes. We saw the New York Giants kind of fumble around. Another team of mine, like with the quarterback decision-making for quite some time. Looks like Jackson Dart's a good one, but I really think that this next coach has to really complement Cam Ward well, or the last 4 years have been a complete waste of time and what you've done with the decision-making. That has nothing to do with the players.
I just I don't really get the hiring and firing after a year and a half. I mean, there had to be something that just like, hey, this guy is just not the vision that we're looking for is just not, we're not on the same page. Because these coaches, they don't, I don't know Brian Callahan at all, but you give him the first round pick and you give him 6 weeks to work with them. I mean, it's not a whole lot of time, right? So, they're not giving hands. So it had to be something that's like, this is not going to work either way. So another question is, what happens with Bill Callahan? He's the O-line coach there. I played for Coach Bill Callahan, his dad, unbelievable line coach. But to try to take a little pressure up, get the run game going and all that stuff going, well, what happens now? Is he going to leave with his son? Is he going to be checked out? So now we're the O-line struggling, and that's even more on top of more. So yeah, for a young quarterback, like Logan said, the constant shifting in the organization, and I feel like as a quarterback, you want the organization to be 100% behind you and all their decisions. And clearly, after I don't know what 21 games, they thought they didn't make the right choice. So not a good position to be in now down there in Tennessee.
I think Bill Callahan is gone, which makes it even crazier because it's number one, O-line coaches don't grow on trees. And really good ones, there's like 4, 5. So I understand it's the O-line that has allowed the most sacks on their quarterback, but a lot of that it's not just on the O-line. There's a lot going on that goes into that one stat, a lot of context space for that. I guess my curiosity going forward is like, well, what does Cam Ward need? What's one thing that you would give Cam Ward in this moment, this season? Because you don't want to develop too many bad habits or the mental aspect of it be too crazy. Like what's the one thing you would give him for this season that could help him the most? Zach, you start with this one since it's your side of the ball.
Man, I would just keep trying to develop the run game. I mean, take some pressure off this guy so he doesn't have to sit back there and throw it 50 times a game. That, my experience, we played when Dak was a rookie. That was, in my opinion, what allowed him to get so comfortable is, we had a run game, and I know they don't have all the guys and all that, but you got to start working there and taking some pressure off this kid so he doesn't feel like he's got the weight of the whole world on his shoulders 5 games into the season.
Yeah, I would get him a baseball coach and learn how to slide, okay? Because if you're telling me my head coach is fired after 6 weeks and my O-line coach, who's like a Hall of Fame O-line coach, is leaving with him, if this happened in college, the kid is dropping out. He's going in the portal right now, or he's getting ready to train for the NFL draft. Because if Cam Ward gets hurt, right, if he gets hurt during this process, this is on the organization. So if I'm Cam Ward as a player, I'm telling you right now, play as hard as you can, but don't take no hard hits. Save your body, save yourself, because you have a bright future. But if this kid gets sacked 50 times because they have no O-line coach and the organization don't know what they're doing, how's that going to help him in his future? How's he going to be the quarterback of the future if he gets hurt this year? So you got to think about that. Is he protected? Is he safe out there going forward? Because we invested $50 million in this guy, and now his O-line coach just left. So I'm gonna be getting down like Tyler Lockett. I'm gonna be Peyton Manning in the pocket. If I see someone coming, I'm taking a dive because you got to think about it from that perspective. It's insanity how you want him to develop, and you fire his play caller 6 games in and his O-line coach. You got to think about protecting yourself.
Yeah, it's a strange situation for sure. So we've made a lot of predictions on this show already, but we need to do like our official prediction moment of the show because so last week we went 1 of 2. We went, well, I don't know, AJ Brown 6 for 9 targets for 80 yards. Like he was mid. He wasn't bad, but it was actually for him that was kind of a high output this season. I don't know. But and then we got the Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown, so we're even though they lost, we're good. We're good on that one. So let's do some predictions for week 7. Zach, we'll start with you.
My prediction this week, let's get Saquon going. Saquon's got a big day. Get him on the ground and going over 100 for Saquon.
Logan, what about you?
I'm going back to my rookies, man. They've rewarded me. I've hit a couple times going with rookies this year, and I want to see the most electric player we've seen in a decade have a breakout game, and that's Travis Hunter. I think it's time. He plays in London, I believe, right? So I think he'll be up early. I told you as a player, London, 9:30 a.m. kickoff, whatever. You're sleepy out there. You're sleepy in the first quarter. So I think Travis Hunter gets in the end zone. I don't know if it's on offense or defense. Hopefully they use him on both a little bit more. But I think he has an impactful game. I think Travis Hunter has the best game of his career.
Okay, so obviously, we have Saquon going for over 100 against the Vikings. We have Travis Hunter having his breakout game over 100. So he gets in the end zone. Mine is actually about the Jags, too. I think they beat the Rams in what would be an upset in London, which is kind of their second home. The Jags played the most international games in London. I also believe that the run game will be really helpful for them, and we've seen that their O-line had their worst performance of the season last week against the Seattle Seahawks, so it's going to be a tougher task. However, the secondary for the Jags is not as the secondary, for the Rams is not anywhere near as scary as the Seattle Seahawks secondary. And they were getting pressure with Ford, being able to drive. Anyways, just a different sort of thing. And even though the Rams are really, really good, I think that the Jags sneak one in their second hometown and get the win over the Rams. And by the way, it is very sleepy. You're in this weird, I know you guys have played in these situations, but as someone who had to work under these conditions last week, it's, you don't know what time it is. You're like, how is it? It's 2:30 in the afternoon or it's 9:30 Eastern. Like, I don't know where I am. And they're afraid to eat some of the food. It's different food. So the routine isn't quite as set, which is why I think the Jags who've done it more often have a bit more of an advantage. Plus, that is such a longer flight from Los Angeles than from Florida. Like, I just took it twice in 48 hours. Like, that is a long freaking flight. So you are bananas. So I think the Jags get the surprise victory over the Rams. Now, we can't leave the show without talking about our ASPCA Humane Award winner. Woo! Logan, I have 2 rescue dogs. It's like he's like my rescue dogs. I think it's very cheesy and cliche, but they definitely saved my life. They rescued me. I couldn't love them more. Thank you for everything that you tell us about the award, and we're so proud of you.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Look, I got an award from the ASPCA, which is the country's national program for saving animals and rescuing animals. That's been my calling card pretty much my entire career. And I had to give a speech, and my speech basically summed up was like, I don't really feel deserving. Obviously, I'm somewhat of a celebrity enough to be like the celebrity of the year, but I dedicate it to all the shelter workers, the volunteers, because animal shelters are run on people volunteering their time, the veterinarians, the animal trainers. My wife worked in a shelter for minimum wage. She is a licensed dog trainer. So the people that go do it and don't get the handsome salary and stuff like that, I dedicate to them. I just try to use my platform to promote adoption, to promote these people, and to rescue animals. And I love animals. We have 3 rescue dogs personally. We fostered like over 50 kittens and got them adopted. And I've always highlighted animals on my Instagram and social media to help them get adopted. But I'm just trying to help what the shelter workers are doing. I'm just trying to amplify, their message. So I was super honored but it ain't about me. It's about all those people. So I'm just happy that, we kind of had our moment to talk about it in these football platforms.
Just when I didn't think you could get any better, Logan, you just go there and save more animals and make me love you even more. And by the way, I have to hand it to your wife. I loved her look with the sneakers. So I'm like all in on like she's a real one. I love that sneaker look.
Yeah.
So
She's a
it was
big
very
sneaker
cool.
girl.
I appreciated that you shared that on your social media and that you kind of let us all have a little bit of a picture of what you're doing. And we'll come, we'll be sure, my husband and I will be sure to in our dog's name, because my rescue dogs, like I said, they're crazy. We love them, and we'll in their name we'll donate to the ASPCA in honor of you and what you've done. Clyde and Gory will do it, not us, because we're useless. They'll do it. But thank you for everything that you do, Zach. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We love that you come back. We'll have to trap all of our predictions going forward. We'll see you all back here very soon. Remember to subscribe again. Just keep subscribing everywhere. You can get them on audio formats. You can get it right here on this YouTube channel. And we will see you back here next week. Enjoy all the football in week 7.